Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you never miss out. Now on with the stories.
I just needed to vent because I am so beyond frustrated. A little backstory. My partner and I are fairly young, in our early 20s. My partner's dad lived in a HOA community for a couple of years until he suddenly passed away last year. My partner moved into his dad's house and took over the payments, not knowing much about how HOAs operate. I moved in a few months later. Over the past year, we have been diligently working to clean up the house and remodel it, while also trying to get the house legally transferred into my partner's name. It has been a complex and time-consuming process involving lawyers and a lot of paperwork. We were just starting to feel like we were making progress when, in July, we received a notice from the HOA about our yard. The notice cited basic issues like weeds and a lack of grass and plants, and it included an option to attend a hearing regarding the notice. We decided not to complain and simply did what they asked. Our yard is very small, maybe about 75 square feet. We added a bunch of plants, cleaned everything up, and tried to get grass growing. We thought we did a good job and assumed they would be satisfied, so we didn't attend the meeting. Today, however, we received a notice confirming a $2,000 fine and stating that we have 90 days to pay it. I tried calling them to explain our situation, and they said they would call me back on Monday. Along with the confirmation of our fines, there was another notice about miscellaneous items in front of the house. I assume they are referring to a table saw that the people remodeling have inside our gate by the front door. I can't understand how they can attempt to fine us for something like that. I'm just so irritated. It's been a very long process to get the house fixed up, and now when we're repairing and remodeling everything inside, they want to complain about our yard. We're the youngest people in our neighborhood, but we don't do anything disruptive. We don't throw parties, we're not loud, and we never have people over. Only those working on our house. I seriously feel like we're being bullied. Maybe I'm being dramatic because it's my first time dealing with anything like this, but I cannot understand why anyone would willingly move into an HOA community. This is incredibly frustrating. The whole situation feels like a constant uphill battle. We are trying our best to comply with the HOA's demands, but it seems like every step we take is met with another obstacle. The yard, which we thought we had improved, is now a source of stress and financial burden. The fines are overwhelming, especially considering our limited budget as young homeowners. We are doing everything we can to make the house our own and to honor my partner's father's memory, but the HOA's relentless scrutiny makes it feel like an impossible task. The table saw issue is particularly baffling. It is not as if we have left it out in the open for weeks on end. It is tucked away within our property, being used for necessary renovations, yet somehow it has become another point of contention. It feels as though the HOA is looking for reasons to penalize us. Rather than working with us to resolve any genuine concerns, we are trying to remain optimistic and hope that the phone call on Monday will bring some clarity and possibly a resolution. But in the meantime, the stress is taking its toll. We are constantly second-guessing every decision we make regarding the house, worried that it might lead to another fine or complaint. The joy of owning a home and creating a space that reflects who we are is overshadowed by the fear of doing something wrong in the eyes of the HOA. Despite the challenges, we are determined to keep moving forward. We are committed to making this house a home. No matter how many hurdles we have to overcome, we just hope that eventually the HOA will see our efforts for what they are, a genuine attempt to be responsible, contributing members of the community. Until then, we will continue to navigate this frustrating situation as best as we can, holding on to the hope that things will eventually get better. As the weekend dragged on, my partner and I found ourselves constantly discussing the situation, trying to figure out what we could do to resolve the issues. We pored over the HOA's rules and regulations, trying to understand where we went wrong and how we could fix it. It was exhausting, both mentally and emotionally. We felt like we were under a microscope, with every little decision being scrutinized and criticized. On Saturday morning, we decided to take a walk around the neighborhood to clear our heads. As we strolled down the tree-lined streets, we couldn't help but notice how pristine and perfect everything looked. The lawns were immaculate, the houses freshly painted, and not a single weed in sight. It was as if we had stepped into a picture-perfect postcard. But instead of feeling inspired, we felt even more frustrated. It seemed impossible to live up to these standards, especially with our limited resources and time. As we walked, we passed by a few neighbors who were out tending to their gardens or washing their cars. We exchanged polite nods and forced smiles, but inside we couldn't shake the feeling that they were judging us. We wondered if they were the ones who had complained to the HOA about our yard or the table saw. It was a disheartening thought, but one that lingered in the back of our minds. When we returned home, we decided to tackle the yard once more. We spent hours pulling weeds, trimming bushes, and planting new flowers. We were determined to make it look as good as possible, hoping that it would appease the HOA and put an end to the fines. By the time we were finished, we were exhausted but proud of our efforts. The yard looked better than it ever had, and we hoped it would be enough to satisfy the HOA's demands. Sunday came and went in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. We tried to distract ourselves with other tasks, but the looming phone call on Monday was always at the forefront of our minds. We knew that the conversation could make or break our situation, and we were desperate for a resolution. Finally, Monday arrived. We woke up early, both of us feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. We went over what we wanted to say, making sure we were prepared to explain our situation and plead our case. As the clock ticked closer to the time of the call, our anxiety grew. When the phone finally rang, my heart skipped a beat. I answered with a shaky voice, trying to remain calm and composed. On the other end of the line was a representative from the HOA, who introduced themselves and asked how they could help. I took a deep breath and began to explain our situation, detailing the efforts we had made to improve the yard and the confusion over the table saw notice. I tried to convey our sincerity and our desire to be good neighbors, hoping that they would understand and be willing to work with us. The representative listened patiently, occasionally asking questions for clarification. I could feel my partner's eyes on me, silently encouraging me to keep going. I poured my heart out, trying to make them see how much this meant to us and how hard we were trying to comply with their rules. When I finished speaking, there was a brief pause on the other end of the line. My heart raced as I waited for their response, hoping for some sign of understanding or empathy. The representative finally spoke, acknowledging the efforts we had made and expressing appreciation for our willingness to address the issues. They explained that the fines were a standard procedure for non-compliance, but assured us that they would review our case and consider our circumstances. While it wasn't the immediate resolution we had hoped for, it was a glimmer of hope that managed to pierce through the cloud of frustration hanging over us. The conversation with the HOA representative had been tense, our words carefully chosen in an attempt to convey both our compliance and our exasperation. As we thanked them for their time and hung up, we felt a mix of relief and uncertainty wash over us. Relief, because we had finally been heard and acknowledged, even if only partially. Uncertainty, because the path forward was still shrouded in ambiguity, with no clear indication of how things would ultimately unfold. We knew that there was still a long road ahead, fraught with potential setbacks and challenges, but at least we had taken a step in the right direction. This small victory, though far from conclusive, was a reminder that our efforts were not entirely in vain. It provided a momentary respite from the relentless stress, allowing us to regroup and gather the strength needed to continue navigating the intricate maze of HOA regulations and demands. In the days that followed, we continued to work on the house, both inside and out. We were determined to show the HOA that we were committed to being responsible homeowners and valued members of the community. It wasn't easy, and there were times when we felt overwhelmed and defeated, but we kept pushing forward, driven by the hope that things would eventually get better. As we navigated this challenging situation, we learned a lot about ourselves and each other. The constant pressure and uncertainty tested our patience and resolve, revealing strengths we didn't know we had. We discovered a newfound resilience and determination, qualities that emerged from the necessity of facing adversity head-on. These were not just abstract concepts, but tangible attributes that manifested in late-night strategy sessions, countless hours spent researching HOA bylaws, and the unwavering support we provided each other during moments of doubt. These qualities would serve us well in the future, equipping us to handle whatever obstacles might come our way. We also realized the importance of communication and understanding, both with each other and with the HOA. Our ability to articulate our frustrations and needs became crucial in maintaining our sanity and solidarity. With the HOA, it was a delicate dance of asserting our rights while attempting to find common ground. A skill we honed through trial and error. This experience underscored the necessity of clear, open dialogue, reminding us that even in the face of bureaucracy, our voices could still make an impact. While the outcome of our situation was still uncertain, we knew that we had done everything we could to make things right. We had faced adversity head-on and had come out stronger on the other side. And no matter what happened, we were proud of the progress we had made, and the home we were creating together. As the weeks went by, we continued to wait for a final decision from the HOA. In the meantime, we tried to focus on the positive aspects of our situation. We took pride in the improvements we had made to the house and yard, and we found joy in the little things that made our house feel like a home. We also began to reach out to our neighbors, hoping to build connections and foster a sense of community. Initially, we were apprehensive, unsure of how they would perceive us as newcomers and whether they would be receptive to our overtures. We introduced ourselves, shared our story, and expressed our desire to be good neighbors. To our surprise, many of them were welcoming and supportive, offering advice and encouragement. Yet, beneath the surface of these friendly exchanges, there was an undercurrent of shared frustration and resentment toward the HOA. It became clear that we were not the only ones feeling the weight of their arbitrary rules and punitive measures. Through these interactions, we learned that we weren't alone in our struggles with the HOA. Many of our neighbors had faced similar challenges and were sympathetic to our situation. Stories of fines for minor infractions, endless bureaucratic red tape, and a general lack of empathy from the HOA board members were common topics of conversation. It was comforting to know that we had allies in the community, and it gave us the strength to keep moving forward. However, it also fueled our anger, knowing that so many others were suffering under the same oppressive system. As we continued to navigate the complexities of homeownership and the HOA, we remained hopeful that a resolution would come. We knew that it wouldn't be easy, but we were determined to persevere and make the most of our situation. Despite the support from our neighbors, the constant pressure from the HOA was a persistent thorn in our side, making it difficult to fully enjoy the home we were working so hard to create. Our determination was driven by a mix of hope and defiance, as we resolved to stand up against the unfair practices that seemed designed to make our lives more difficult. In the end, we couldn't shake the feeling that the journey had been a relentless uphill battle, overshadowing any sense of accomplishment we might have felt. The constant barrage of HOA notices, the mounting fines, and the seemingly endless list of demands had left us feeling more exhausted than enlightened. Each step we took to comply with their rules felt like a concession, a surrender to an authority that seemed intent on making our lives difficult. The so-called growth we experienced felt more like a forced adaptation to an unreasonable system, rather than a natural evolution. We were tired of the endless hoops we had to jump through just to keep the peace, and the sense of being watched and judged at every turn was infuriating. Our frustration was tangible, and while we were more united than ever in our determination to stand our ground, the thought of future battles with the HOA filled us with dread. The resilience and hope we clung to felt more like a necessity for survival in this hostile environment than a triumphant outcome of our ordeal. So, most collection policies escalate if things are ignored. I.e., first you usually get a warning notice, then it usually escalates to a fine, then next month the fine escalates, etc., until eventually it gets to be a daily fine if the violation is ignored. So that's usually how it gets that high, because there's usually months of the issue not being addressed and the fines escalate to try to force the issue to be addressed. Don't kill the messenger, I'm just pointing out how lost collection policies work. Then also, if things escalate to a lawyer, that also gets tacked on. I'm on the board of my HOA to keep crap like this from happening. I have never issued a monetary fine for a yard. When it gets over a foot and or someone complains, I'll send a $0 violation, which has always worked. $1,000 seems excessive. Read your CC&RS, ask for the fine sheet, ask for all records you are entitled. The CC&Rs say you can request, look at state laws to see what fees they can have to you pay to get those, then take it all to a lawyer if things don't change. Also get to the lawyer quick and potentially pay the fines, as they can take your house insanely quick. Our documents say we can start foreclosure stuff when they are due months late on anything, and we will semi-annually. So if I was a horrible person, I could start foreclosure stuff on about 5 houses that have just missed on bill. Fight fast and hard. You use the word partner, which and youngest, you may be fighting some bigotry here. and if they don't have a fine schedule they are probably targeting. Worst of all, let me start this by saying don't listen to them about getting a lawyer, yet, because it will just cost you more money for nothing. It's stupid. Calm down and don't let them panic you. I can explain this now that I know you live in Florida. Your docs either do or don't define how much is the max they can fine you. So it was not $1,000 for the weeds and $1,000 grass, it was $100 day each for the state maximum of $1,000. In other words, 100 by 10 days, x 2 violations equals 2,000.00. Now where you really messed up was not going to that meeting. That meeting was your chance to under Florida law to prove it was taken care of or in process before the meeting, and under Florida law the fine will be erased. Never assume it was taken care of. I fell to the same costly oops your age too. Did what I was supposed to be, assumed it was good. This is what I recommend you do. Write a certified letter to the board and send it to the PM. Spell out politely that you are suddenly unexpected homeowners trying to clean up the property after your father died. Ask for a one-time waive of the fines, saying that it was addressed before the fining hearing. You just assumed that there was to be inspection by the HOA to confirm it was addressed. Attach pictures of it all addressed. Also tell them you really need the money to finish refurbishment of the property, doesn't have to be true, and that the fines will take away from improving the property and keeping it nice. It helps them see how fining someone actively fixing a property will also stop said work. Get rid of the table saw. Move it into the garage or backyard and cover. Garage is absolutely first choice if you have one. If you don't, ask for a waiver for X amount of reasonable time you need to complete the refurbishment. If you ask for more than 30 days they will likely say no, so consider that before asking. They will hold you to it likely. If they are reasonable people, they will waive the fines. It's a soft cost and not an income they should be counting on. If they don't, start looking at Florida law. One easy thing to do to get rid of Florida fines, if an HOA and not condo, is request an account statement. If they don't get it to you, I think in 14 or 30 days, they lose the ability to charge those fines. Don't go running for that. That's a later thing you can do when they are not paying attention. Another thing you can do is ask for the meeting notes showing the votes to confirm your fine. It should be 3 people that voted that were not related to the board or PM in any way. You can do all this for free and not pay a lawyer.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.